Listen closely, because the scariest part isn't the cold stone walls, it's how normal everything felt inside them. Imagine you're 7. Your world used to be a kitchen fire, a parent's voice, the smell of bread. Now it's a corridor of wet stone. A bell. Footsteps that don't echo like people, but like rules. You walk in holding one tiny object from home, something you're not supposed to love more than God. And before anyone even speaks to you, you realize the other children have learned a skill you don't have yet. How to disappear while still standing upright. Heads down. Eyes forward. No crying. No questions. Because questions have consequences here. And the first shock isn't cruelty. It's procedure. They take what you carried. They take what you wore. They take the name you answer to. They tell you it's holiness. They say it softly. Kindly, even. But then you notice the details nobody explains. Why are some doors always locked, from the outside? Why do the older kids move like they're listening for danger that hasn't arrived yet? Why does the whole place feel less like a school, and more like a machine? In a few minutes, you're going to learn the first lesson convent children learn fast. This isn't just about prayer. It's about control. And the way they start breaking you is so small, so ordinary, you almost miss it, until it's too late. The first punishment usually didn't look like punishment. It looked like discipline. Like training. Like something adults could nod at and call necessary. They start by changing your time. Not your schedule, your sense of reality. Before dawn, the bell jerks you awake. Sleep isn't rest here. It's suspicious. You line up in the dark, half blind, half frozen, and you learn the first rule: your body no longer belongs to comfort. Cold water. Not a quick splash. A ritual. Hands guiding you, watching you, correcting you. The explanation is always spiritual. Purity. Humility. Obedience. But the effect is physical. Cold makes you quiet. Cold makes you compliant. Cold makes you easy to move. And then comes silence. Not please be quiet. Not inside voices. Total silence. Hours at a time. You don't get to process fear out loud. You don't get to ask the older girls what happens behind the heavy doors. You don't get to say you miss your mother without somebody noticing and deciding that missing her is a sin. So the children invent a second language. A glance that means don't go near that stairwell. A hand on your sleeve that means stop talking with your face. A loaf placed slightly apart that means someone is being watched today. Even their kindness has to be smuggled. And you start realizing something worse than punishment is happening. They're not just trying to control what you do. They're trying to control what you think you deserve. Because when you finally whisper, when you break, someone leans in and tells you the line that turns your stomach to ice. You're lucky to be here. And right then, you hear footsteps approaching, slow, confident, like the building itself is sending someone to collect what it owns. The scariest word in the convent wasn't sin. It was chosen. Because being chosen meant you were about to leave the safety of the group, if you can call it safety, and walk into a room where the rules changed. Not loudly. Quietly. A nun says your new name like she's blessing you. The syllables are short, blunt, easy to bark across a corridor. You repeat it because you have to. And the old name, the one your mother used, starts to feel dangerous to hold in your head. That's how it begins. Not with screams. With subtraction. They subtract your hair. A novice holds your shoulders while another cuts. The reason is vanity. But the real lesson is simpler: you are not allowed to look like you. They subtract your possessions. Even the smallest thing, a ribbon, a button, a carved toy, gets taken and stored. You never see it again. And when you reach for it in your mind, you're told attachment is a flaw. A weakness. Proof you're not obedient enough. Then they subtract your warmth. Bare feet on winter stone. Thin cloth. Drafts that bite through you. You learn to stop shivering because shivering gets noticed. Noticing gets corrected. And correction is its own ritual. Kneel. Pray. Confess. Confess what? Anything. If you don't have sins, they'll hand you some. Pride. Laziness. Impure thoughts. Disrespect. It doesn't matter what you say. What matters is that you accept guilt as your natural state. Because guilt makes you manageable. And now the convent has a child who will apologize for being hungry. That's when you start spotting the ledger. Not a holy book. Not scripture. A book with columns. Names. Numbers. Notes. Quiet conversations over it, like adults discussing supplies. And one day, as you're sent to carry something down a corridor you've never been allowed to enter, you see a page turned just slightly toward the candlelight. Your new name isn't there. A number is. And next to it, something that looks like an evaluation. At that exact moment you understand, this place doesn't just raise children. It sorts them. And the reason it sorts them is about to step out from behind the next door. They didn't need chains. They had routine. A medieval convent could feel calm from the outside, chants, candles, order. But for children inside, the day was built like a trap you walked into over and over until you stopped trying to escape it. Work came first. Not chores. Labor. Scrubbing floors until your knuckles split. Hauling water that sloshed onto your dress and turned icy on your skin. Stirring pots bigger than you. Copying letters until your eyes blurred, because a blot of ink wasn't a mistake, it was carelessness, and carelessness meant punishment. Food wasn't a meal. It was leverage. A smaller portion for the girl who cried. A warmer bowl for the one who obeyed fast. A crust handed out like mercy, so you'd feel grateful for what should have been normal. And if you got sick? You learned another convent truth: illness wasn't always treated as a problem to solve. Sometimes it was treated as proof. Proof you were weak. Proof you were being tested. Proof you needed harsher discipline to purify you. So children hid fevers. Hid coughs. Hid blood on their sleeves. Because attention was dangerous. Then came the inspections, official, proper, for your formation. A woman you barely know checks your hands, your posture, your cleanliness. She pinches your cheeks like livestock, not affection. She asks questions you can't answer right without guessing what she wants. Are you grateful? Are you obedient? Do you think of home? And the moment you hesitate, she smiles gently and says something that sounds holy but lands like a threat. God sees everything. We simply help him correct you. That's when you notice the older children watching you, not with pity, but with urgency. They're trying to warn you without moving their mouths. Because there's a pattern to the day. A rhythm everyone learns. And the most feared moment isn't night. It's late afternoon, when the sunlight turns orange in the windows, and a particular key ring starts to jingle down the hall. Not every key. Just one set. The set that opens the rooms you're not supposed to ask about. The set that means someone important has arrived, and the convent is about to become hospitable. Hospitality was a sacred duty. That's what they told you. And it sounded beautiful, until you saw what hospitality looked like when you were small, powerless, and being arranged like part of the decor. Footsteps. Better fabric. A change in the air. The adults spoke differently when visitors came. Softer. Happier. Like the building itself was putting on a performance. The children were cleaned more carefully that day. Hair smoothed. Faces wiped. Lines rehearsed. Speak clearly. Eyes down. Smile when spoken to. Say thank you. Thank you for what? You learn fast not to ask. Because the convent runs on two versions of reality. The public one, prayer, charity, education. The private one, control, reputation, leverage. A visitor doesn't need to be openly cruel. That's the trick. The truly powerful don't snarl. They don't shout. They just expect compliance, because everyone around them rushes to provide it. So the nuns stage the children. Not like students. Like proof. Proof that the convent is successful. That it tames the young. That it turns wildness into obedience. And sometimes, a visitor pauses on you a second too long. Nothing overt. Nothing you could accuse. Just a look that makes your stomach tighten, because you've already learned the most important survival skill in this place. Read the room before the room reads you. Afterward, the visitor laughs, says something polite, and leaves a donation. Coin on wood. A nod. A blessing. And the convent changes. That night the food is slightly better. The candles last longer. The adults seem lighter. Which means you've just learned the sickest lesson of all. Your suffering can be converted into comfort for someone else. And the older kids know it. They've seen the pattern repeat until it carved grooves in their faces. Some children are showcased. Some are hidden. Some are promoted to special tasks. And when you finally whisper to an older girl, just 2 words barely air, "Why me?" She doesn't answer. She only presses something into your palm, a tiny scrap of cloth with a single knot tied into it. A warning. Because the knot means a name is being pulled from the list tonight. And you're about to find out what happens when the convent stops pretending you're a child, and starts treating you like an asset. The list wasn't read out loud. It didn't need to be. A name, your new name, was spoken casually, like you'd been asked to fetch water. And the moment it left her mouth, every child near you went still, like a flock sensing a shadow pass overhead. You stand. Too fast, and you look guilty. Too slow, and you look defiant. So you move at the exact speed fear teaches. A corridor. A door. A candle held low. Inside, it's not a dungeon. That's what makes it worse. It's tidy. Quiet. A room prepared to feel normal. A table. A basin. Clean cloth. A chair placed precisely where it should be. You're told this is instruction. Correction. Care. Words that can mean anything when you're trapped. The adult in the room doesn't have to touch you to change your life. Sometimes all it takes is a question asked with a smile. Do you love God? Do you obey your mother superior? Would you like to be trusted? Trusted. That word is bait. Because you know what trust buys here: a thicker blanket. A safer task. Less attention from the cruel ones. So you nod. You say yes. Your voice comes out small. And now the trap closes. They tell you the rules of being trusted. You will report whispers. You will notice disobedience. You will be loyal. Not to friends. Not to the children. To the system. And if you hesitate, if your eyes flick to the door like an animal measuring distance, your instructor leans in and says the line that turns your stomach over. Children who aren't trusted don't last. That's the moment you realize the convent doesn't just punish bodies. It isolates. It turns children into witnesses against each other so nobody can ever build a we. And walking back to the dorm, you see the older girl who gave you the knotted cloth watching your face for one answer. Did you break? You want to tell her no. But you also want to live. So you do the only thing the convent has taught you to do well. You lie with your eyes. And as you climb onto the straw mattress, you notice something on the floor near the far wall. Something that wasn't there this morning. A loose stone. Not kicked aside by accident. Placed. Like someone left a secret, and is daring you to pick it up. A loose stone in a convent is louder than a scream. Because it means someone risked being seen, risked punishment, just to leave a message. You wait until breathing settles. Until the room sounds like sleep. Then you slide off the mattress, bare feet finding the cold like it's an old enemy. The stone lifts easier than it should. Underneath, a gap. A hiding place. And inside, a tiny bundle wrapped in cloth. Not treasure. Not food. A ribbon. A button. A broken piece of a wooden toy. Proof. Proof that other children lost things the same way you did. Proof you're not imagining the theft. Proof the holy separation from earthly attachments is a lie with a very practical function. Erase the past, so the child can be rewritten. Your throat tightens. You almost put it back. But then you find something else tucked beneath the scraps, thin, folded, stained with time. A page. Not Latin prayer. Not scripture. A schedule. Simple marks. Symbols. A crude map of corridors. And beside certain days, a sign repeated again and again, 3 lines like a claw mark. The older children have been tracking something. Visitors. Inspections. Selections. The moments the convent becomes dangerous in a different way. Your pulse hammers because the page has today's mark on it. And beside it, a symbol that looks like a circle with a slash, like a warning sign. You glance toward the sleeping forms. Nobody moves. But you can feel eyes anyway, like the darkness itself is paying attention. That's when you hear it. A soft sound from the far end of the dorm. Not footsteps. Not a door. A whisper barely there. Put it back. Your blood goes cold. Because you didn't hear it from a nun. You heard it from a child. You freeze, clutching the page, and a small shape rises from the shadows. An older girl with a shaved head and eyes that look too awake for midnight. She doesn't come close. She stays just far enough that if anyone wakes, she can pretend she never moved. And she tells you, silently at first, with her hands. Not yet. Not here. Then finally she speaks, one sentence, the most dangerous thing a child can do in this place. They punish questions. She points to the page. Tomorrow, she mouths. And as she sinks back onto her mattress, you realize something terrifying and hopeful at the same time. There's a system inside the system. A network of children surviving by planning in the only way they're allowed, quietly. But then the bell rings. Not the morning bell. A single chime. The emergency chime. And every child in the room sits up at once, like they've been trained for this exact moment, because they have. That bell means one thing: move. No questions. No shoes. No light. The older children are already lining up, faces blank, like they're putting on masks in the dark. You copy them because copying is survival. A nun appears with a lantern, and her calm is the most frightening part. No panic. No urgency. Just control. She counts. Not names. Numbers. And when she gets to yours, she pauses half a beat, like she's checking you against something invisible, then keeps going. The line begins to walk. Through a corridor you haven't seen at night. The convent feels different after dark. The shadows don't sit still. The air smells like damp wax and old stone, and the silence is so complete you can hear the fabric of habits brush against walls. You pass a door with iron hinges. Another with fresh scratches near the latch. You want to look. You don't. Looking is a kind of speaking. Down a stairwell. Lower than you've ever been allowed. Your stomach drops because the rules change underground. Even the adults act like they're entering a place that belongs to someone else. The nun stops at a landing and turns, lantern lifting just enough to catch all your faces. Prayer, she says. But the word lands wrong. This isn't prayer like warmth. This is prayer like paperwork. Kneel. Hands together. Eyes down. Then she begins assigning children to tasks in a voice that's almost bored. 2 to the laundry. 1 to the infirmary. 3 to the chapel. And then she says a task you've never heard before. Downstairs. The older children flinch, so fast most people wouldn't notice. But you notice. Because you're watching like your life depends on it. She calls 2 numbers. Not yours. Relief hits so hard you feel dizzy, until you realize the 2 children chosen aren't crying. They're trembling with the kind of practiced fear that comes from knowing exactly what's about to happen. The lantern turns. The keys jingle. A door opens that should not open. And as the selected children are led away, one of them looks back, just once, eyes wide, mouth closed, begging without sound. Then the door shuts. And you hear it. Not a scream. Not yet. A muffled thud. Like something heavy dropped on wood. The nun turns back to the rest of you, serene as ever, and says softly, "Return to your places." You start to move, but the older girl from the dorm catches your sleeve for half a second. She slips something into your hand. It's the knotted cloth again, only now there are 2 knots. A new message. 2 knots means, someone didn't come back last time. And you suddenly understand tomorrow isn't just tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day the children stop being quiet about what they know. By morning, the convent pretends nothing happened. That's another thing that was normal, the reset. The bell rings. The prayers begin. The faces go blank again. And if 2 children are missing, nobody asks where they went, because asking is how you join them. At breakfast, you finally see how fear moves through a room without a sound. One girl's hands shake so badly she can't lift the bowl. Another stares at the wall like she's watching something crawl across it. A third keeps rubbing her wrists under the table, like she's trying to erase the memory of being grabbed. The nuns call it weakness. The children call it Tuesday. Then the older girl sits beside you, close enough to speak without being seen speaking. She doesn't tell you her real name. She gives you a word. Remember. That's what their network is called. Not a rebellion. Not an escape plan. A single fragile act. Refusing to forget. She taps your knuckles once, code for listen, then slides you a folded scrap hidden under crust. On it, the crude corridor map again, and a mark near the outer wall. A drain. An old service passage. Something the builders left before the convent decided every opening should be a control point. Your heart lifts, then immediately drops. Because next to the passage is a note made of symbols, and you don't need training to understand it. Someone tried. Someone failed. She watches your face and tells you the truth in the smallest voice. Leaving is hard, she says. Staying is worse. Then she adds the sentence that changes everything. They keep records. Not prayer records. Not confession. Real records, who arrived, who transferred, who fell ill, who went to God. Words that can be made to mean anything when the only witnesses are children taught to be silent. And that means one terrifying thing. If the records are the story, whoever controls the ink controls the truth. So the plan isn't just to run. It's to take something with you that can't be prayed away. A page. A ledger line. A signature. Proof. Because without proof, the world outside will look at a starving child in a rough tunic and say, "You're confused. You're lying. You're ungrateful." The older girl leans closer. "Tonight," she whispers, "you go to the scriptorium." Your stomach flips. The scriptorium is where ink lives. Where rules are written. Where the convent keeps its power in neat lines. And as if the building heard her, the Mother Superior steps into the hall. She's smiling. And she's walking straight toward you. Mother Superior doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. She glides through the room like certainty, and everyone shrinks without moving. Like even breathing too loudly could be interpreted as defiance. She stops behind you. You feel her presence before you feel her hand, 2 fingers resting on your shoulder, light as a blessing, heavy as a threat. Child, she says gently, you are learning. It's not a question. It's a claim. Her nail presses just slightly into the cloth, and you understand the message. I can hurt you without looking like I hurt you. Then she asks you something that sounds kind to anyone listening. Do you miss your family? Your mouth goes dry. This is a trap disguised as comfort. If you say yes, you admit attachment, sin. If you say no, you admit you've been successfully formed, and that makes you useful. Useful gets you chosen. You force your face into stillness and whisper, I pray for them. Mother Superior smiles like you passed. But her eyes don't. They prayed for you as well, she says, and pauses, just long enough for the lie to stick. They gave you to God. You feel something split inside you, the part that wants to believe, and the part that knows belief is dangerous here. She moves on, and the room exhales. But the older girl's warning returns like a drumbeat. They keep records. That night, you're assigned to candle duty near the scriptorium, close enough to see the door, not close enough to be suspected of wanting inside. The corridor is empty. Then not empty. A novice appears, carrying parchment. She looks exhausted, one of the few adults here who still has a human face. As she passes, she drops something. Not by accident. A small wax seal cracked. She keeps walking. Doesn't look back. Your fingers close around it, and your heart bangs against your ribs because a seal means a document was opened. And a document means truth exists on paper somewhere. Later, when the convent finally sleeps in its careful, staged way, you slip closer to the scriptorium door. No light leaks out. But you hear something. Scratch. 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 Someone is writing at this hour. You glance over your shoulder, ready to bolt. Then the door opens a finger's width. A single eye appears in the gap. Not a nun's. The novice. She doesn't speak. She simply slides out a thin strip of parchment and presses it into your hand. Ink still fresh. One line, copied fast. Item 47, received by debt settlement. Your breath catches. Not because of the number. Because the word received tells you exactly what the convent thinks children are. The door closes again. And down the corridor, a second sound begins. Slow footsteps, heavier than the novices. Coming toward you. And this time, whoever is walking isn't trying to stay quiet. You don't run. Not yet. Running in a convent is like bleeding in water. You become the only thing anyone can see. So you do what the older children do. You become furniture. You press yourself into the shadow beside a pillar, parchment hidden under your sleeve, and you slow your breathing until your chest barely moves. The footsteps stop. A lantern lifts. Light crawls across the stone. It reaches your feet. And pauses. A voice, low and patient. Come out. Not angry. Worse. Certain. You step forward because refusal is a kind of confession. The lantern reveals a nun you've only seen from far away, older, strong hands, eyes that don't soften. The kind of person the convent trusts with the ugly tasks. She doesn't ask what you're doing. She holds out her hand. You hesitate for half a heartbeat. Her gaze flicks to your sleeve. She already knows. So you give her the parchment. She reads the line once. Twice. Then folds it carefully, like it's valuable. And that's when she surprises you. She doesn't punish you. She smiles. You're curious, she says. Curiosity can be shaped. Your stomach turns. Because this is how the convent recruits its future. Not with force. With options. She offers you a choice that isn't a choice. You can be corrected, she whispers, or you can be useful. Useful again. Always that word. She steps closer and lowers her voice further. Useful children get warmth. Food. Protection. Then she tilts her head toward the dorm corridor. Useless children get forgotten. She's waiting for you to nod. And your body wants to. Your body wants safety. But then you remember the 2 knots. The missing children. The way the building resets. You look down, and you realize her hand is still holding the parchment. She's not destroying it. She's keeping it. Which means she doesn't fear truth. She fears who gets to own it. The nun tucks the strip into her habit and says, "Tomorrow, you will report to me. Alone." Then she turns to go, already sure she's won. But as she walks away, she drops something behind her with a soft clink. A key. Not a full ring. One single key. She doesn't look back. And in the weak lantern light, you see the teeth are stained dark with age, like it hasn't been used in a long time. Like it opens a door the convent prefers to keep closed. You stand there, key on the stone between your feet, realizing the nun just did the most dangerous thing anyone has done to you so far. She gave you access. And now you have to decide before dawn. Do you use that key to find proof? Or do you use it to find a way out?